It's Mewtwo Welder on the Sableyes. Welcome back, everyone, to more from the Sableyes. I'm Mitch, and today we're going to be taking a look at an old favourite. It's MewMew Welder, a deck that has seen a lot of success in recent times. There's been a lot of chopping and changing since Henry Brand took this type of deck to the World Championships in late 2019. It's seen a lot of different variations, but now we're back to a classic look, ready for the new Sword and Shield format. Thanks very much to Sam, who's put together a list for us and who is happy to share. But before we take a look, I just wanted to quickly remind you, if you do like the content that we put out and you want to see more of it, then consider subscribing. About 60% of people who watch our videos don't actually subscribe to the channel, and it makes me sad every time I see my analytics. So, you know, if you could help me out, that would be great. Anyway, we'll head over to Sam and take a look at the list. So I'm here with Sam to take a look at MewMew Welder. How are we doing, Sam?
Oh, good, mate. How are you?
Yes, good, thank you. Now, this is the deck that you played for pretty much the entirety of last quarter, and you're keen to see it be successful again in the Sword and Shield format.
For sure. I refuse to think that one simple rule change is going to make Mewtwo any less of a consistently good deck. I think the only thing that really changes is that maybe we can't use the tag supporter engine, because the whole play was that you use them on the first turn like Guz Mahala to set everything up and then you're fine. But in this meta now, we kind of have to just welder every turn, so we're taking it back to old school to optimize this list in the new meta, but I think it should be fine.
Yeah, it's kind of like Henry Brand's World Championship kind of engine, where you just play Welder every turn that you get a chance to and take big knockouts, and hopefully that's enough.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we've gone away from the whole tag call, because I think the big thing too for Mewtwo is hopefully a lot of Malamar is not going to be as popular anymore, since they can't Lily on that first turn, and Malamar was one of the decks that Mewtwo had to heavily tech for in the past. And now if that's kind of out of the way, I think it's free to kind of go on an absolute tear again, and that's what I'm hoping it can still do. Yeah, well, and hopefully it can. If you'd like to show us the list, now's the time to do it. Let's take a look at some of these Absolutely.
Pokemon.
So let's get off with the very self-explanatories, which is 3 of the Mewtwo and Mew Tag Team GX. Do you want me to kind of break down each card, or?
Oh, I think Mewtwo is probably pretty self-explanatory.
I was going to say, it's pretty self-explanatory, and I would say that the 4 Dedenne are also pretty self-explanatory at this point. Everyone kind of knows what they do. These have been the bread and butter of Mewtwo since its inception, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Dedenne has just always been a great extender. This format, it's a bit iffy. I'm a bit iffy on the high counts, because a lot of decks are still running low puff, but I think with the whole premise that your deck is trying to push out Welder every turn, it's fine. You can deal with it. It's not gonna kill you to run those.
And I think the 4 Dedenne is really, really strong when you go into a format where you can't play a supporter first turn. I think that's
exactly that's the biggest thing, is you're trying to get as many resources in the bin as possible on your first turn, so that when you go into your next turn, you're not trying to fish for the attacker that you want, because nobody's running like the Giraffe Freak from Lost Thunder anymore, like they were in ADP, to try and get rid of things in the discard. So whatever's in there is probably there to stay, and you can be a bit more aggressive.
Absolutely.
So anyway, as far as tag team Pokemon go, the only 2 other ones that have added are Mega Lopunny and Jigglypuff, and Reshiram and Charizard. Espeon Deoxys is not good anymore. I don't think it's that strong. It was mainly in there for the Malamar and Pidgey Control decks. I think Pidgey Control might upgrade to Cinccino in the future, and I think that Malamar is not as strong as it used to be, and SPDO is not as strong of an attacker as it used to be. Malamar is now focusing more towards Mewtwo, and it's easier for for this list to be able to smash them with things like low puff. And the Reshiram is just a really good attacker.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's just 2 generically good ones. Low puff obviously strong because Pigarom's being super hyped, and I don't know if you've looked at the board that we've got at the moment, but there's 9 GXs on there, so that's a lot of damage.
Yes, exactly. Now, moving on to some more GXs, and there is one spicy inclusion. So looking at the Fireboys, we've got Macargo back, we've got Charizard GX, which is probably one of the most busted GX attacks that Mewtwo gets access to. And then one cheeky guy I've been testing out in my, I think it's Victini V. So Macargo is really solid because we've gone away now from running the Weakness Guard and the Rainbow Energy. We can go back to pure basic energy. So Lava Flow becomes incredibly strong through that. Charizard is mainly just in here for his GX attack, 300 damage. Even though we have all those big G maxes, 300 is still normally clearing all the important matchups, as I feel that Snorlax, Lapras, and Stonejourner are not really the top tier meta decks that Mewtwo needs to worry about. And the Victini is a really cool addition. Spreading Flame is actually a pretty decent attack to be going for early game if you've got nothing else really set up, getting a lot of fire energy back into play. And Energy Burst is really strong for 2 energy, doing 30 times the amount of energy shared between the Pokemon. So it's always doing a base of 60, and then increases against certain things. So really strong for the Zacian matchup, which sometimes Mewtwo can struggle with, mainly for the Zacian Luca Metal matchup, where Luca Metal does have the resistance and the frying pan. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I really like the Victini V. Obviously, important to remember that you can't copy the attack with Mewtwo, but
No.
when you're in that Zacian matchup, if you're able to attack for weakness, you're doing 60 base plus 30 more for each of their energy, usually 3 more. It's going to be enough to get yourself a one-shot on a Zacian. So that's a pretty decent trade.
Yeah, I think, like, for a 2-prizer, it's a pretty solid addition to the deck, and does give you another attacker, which sometimes was the issue with Mewtwo. There were a few attackers where, other than Mewtwo, you didn't really want to use them. They weren't that great, but Victini's not too bad. On to some more stable GXs in Mewtwo. We got the Solgaleo, we got the Naganadel, we got the Latios, and for this list, just for testing, I wanted to try the Jirachi GX. I guess a lot of decks are able to run Mewtwo to copy a lot of attacks, so in a mirror match, or not really a mirror match, but like say, with the Makago deck, they can use Mewtwo and then only need 3 energies to knock out an opposing Mewtwo. So I'd rather them have to have the extra 2 energies attached to be able to get the knockout by running the Jirachi, and it also does improve the Mewtwo Malamar matchup. They can't just simply Night Watch, knock out your Mewtwo, take 3 prizes, and shuffle in 2 cards into your deck. They kind of work for it a bit more, which I like. Latios, big staple, just because Tag Purge is so good. Clear Vision, maybe not as strong as it used to be, but it can still have some really viable usage in some matchups. Naganadel's Venom Shot becomes very strong, as a lot of decks are bringing back into Dene because of this first turn no supporter rule, so really easy snipe for 2 prizes. And Solgaleo, probably still one of the most busted attacks from Mewtwo to copy, just 2 colorless energy, and we get to take 2 energy from the discard and attach it. So yeah.
Yeah, pretty strong. I like the Jirachi GX, especially when Psychic is such a big threat at the moment. There's so many of those annoying cards floating around. Mew Mew is going to be big at Melbourne, so I like that. And yeah, obviously Latios with Clear Vision pretty much stops ADP from being useful against Mewtwo.
Yes.
Like, it's so difficult for ADP Zacian to win games when they can't do the extra 30 damage.
It's a very tough decision, though, with that one, I must say, because sometimes in that matchup, I do prefer, like, the Flare-Blitz from Charizard or the Reshizard Double Blaze if I do get the chance to fire it off. Sometimes they can be better just to knock out the ADP, and then you have Reshizard afterwards, or Victini V that can take care of the Zacian, so it's never normally too bad. But yes, in the early game, if you have nothing else going for you, Clear Vision is a solid strategy. In terms of non-GX or V Pokemon, we have one Marshadow and one Mind Report Mewtwo. I was tossing and turning on whether I wanted the Mind Report Mewtwo or the Power Pack, but I liked that Mewtwo was actually a searchable card that was able to get you Welder back on the top of your deck, and with the 4 counter to Dene, and as you see some other drawing mechanisms in the deck, I think it just proved to be a bit better. It can be a bit clunky in terms of sorting out your bench space, but as long as you don't open into Dene, you normally only want 2 or 3 on your bench at a time. So it's probably not a big deal, and obviously Marshadow is really important in this meta due to a lot of decks running the Chaotic Swell. So being able to get rid of that and then get your Hearth into play to start extending your big Welder plays is the whole, I guess, big thing.
Yeah, exactly. And since you're not going to be playing Welder on the first turn, it's not as important that you recycle them all the time with Power Pad. Mewtwo can kind of create a little bit of extra consistency when you need them. You can guarantee that you draw into one Welder instead of just putting 2 back and hoping for the best.
Exactly. Now, on to the supporters. Big shocker. Heading into this format, there was a debate I was thinking about if you'd want to run Bill's Analysis again or something similar. I know that Tord Reklev really likes Hapu, but for me, the only supporters I want to be running right now is just the 4 Welder. Still a really busted card, giving you 3 energy attaches for a turn, which opens up a lot of attacks. Also, then drawing 3 cards on top of that. It just extends so many crazy good plays. And I think that with the Mewtwo being able to recycle this, the whole plan of this deck now going forward is you just want to be Weldering every turn. And you're weldering 4 to 5 times in the game, you should be able to put yourself in a position where you can win. Obviously, it can be hard to sometimes whiff it, but that's the case with any welder deck. Mitch, you played ability side, you understand the risk when it comes to welder, but it's a risk we always like to take.
Yep, well, it's definitely worth it. When it pays off big time. Welder is such a strong card, and even though you can't play it turn 1, the good thing about Mewtwo versus ability side is that you only need 1 attachment on a Mewtwo, and you're still threatening 300 damage turn 2, because Charizard GX's GX attack does 300. So that's the difference between those two decks at the moment. Ability side probably out, because it can't get to 300 without 2 welders, but Mew Mew can get there. It's definitely a big threat.
Yeah, that's the big thing I think some people are writing off about Welder Mewtwo. The turn 1 no supporter doesn't really bother us that much. We can just get a simple board set up and just 1 energy attach to that Mewtwo. Not even a big deal, because then next turn we can just weld 2 more energy and attach 1, and boom, we have Flare Blitz GX for 300.
Yeah, exactly. Or
Mad Cargo,
or Mad Cargo GX
exactly,
for 250,
yeah.
Or Low Puff for 280 or whatever it is.
So it just depends on the matchup. Or even just Latios just tag purging.
Yeah, that's
can
fine.
be really strong against Pikarom.
That's fine.
Yeah. Moving on, we have also 4 Cherish Ball, and we also have 4 Quick Ball. So obviously Quick Ball used to be Mysterious Treasure. I'm finding Quick Ball just better because it's an extra way to search for Dedenne, which in this deck is nuts to extend your plays. Still searches all the important cards. Only thing Treasure won't be able to find you is the Naganadel GX, but I don't think that's too much of a detriment. Everything else in the deck is pretty much just searched. All the Pokemon can be searched with these 2 cards, effectively, which is what I liked. The extra discard is also super nice, so you're not just reliant on your Hearth or Dedenne discards. If you Dedenne and then you draw into a hand, you're like, okay, I swear I have a Quick Ball, I can get another resource in the bin. That's really nice. Gives a lot of extensions to your plays. So I think, just running a is still just really strong.
Yeah, Quick Ball obviously really, really good in finding Dedenne early. It means you've got 8 outs to that card instead of just the 4. So definitely worth running that over Mysterious Treasure, because like you said, you only lose out on the Naganadel GX, and you only really want that late game to discard it anyway. So that is fine by me.
Yeah, I think also some people were talking about bringing back E-Raider. I think the combination of Quick Ball just combines both Mysterious Treasure and E-Raider into 1 card. You don't have to discard as many resources. You can actually use some of your resources and still get to the card that you want. So
Quick Ball's just too good to not play. It's too good.
Then to keep on extending the plays, we've got 4 Acrobike. And also, I suppose, as an extender, I'll include it, we have 4 Custom Capture. So the Acrobike, I think, is always something that I've wanted to run in Mewtwo. I've tried lists without it, and it just hasn't been as good. Sometimes just hitting that extra card off the Acrobike can be huge. You can put some really important GX cards in your discard. It can give you a Quick Ball or a Cherish Ball or a Welder. A lot of outs there, which is fantastic. And the catches, I think we're going back to catches in Mewtwo, because the Great Catch is okay. Pokemon Catcher is a coin flip, which I just hate. And the catches are kind of fine in this deck. They can extend some plays as well. And a lot of our matchup, a lot of times Mewtwo doesn't really care. It can just knock out whatever's in the active. But if we do need to target some things on the bench, say we need to bring up a Mew so we can then do Venom Shot with Naganadel in the future, Catcher just gets that job done really easily for us.
Yeah, can't add anything more there. I personally am not a massive fan of Acrobike, never have been, but it makes too much sense in this deck to not play it. Just to
I've had my ass saved so many times by Acrobike, I can't even tell you.
It just happens, you just pull them out. It's just that's the thing that I needed.
Yeah, literally, I think I had one game against an ADP player, and I was bricking, I didn't know what I was going to do, and I did an Acrobike that hit me into a Welder and a Charizard GX. I was able to discard the Charizard GX, get the Welder, play down I think I had a Mars Shadow, so I was able to bump the Swirl, play down the Hearth, get all the engineered, and then Flare Blitz GX before it could alter creation. Yep. And I was like, oh, okay.
Perfect
Save.
stuff.
Anyway,
usually you just get into another Acrobike, right? That's normally the way.
Yeah.
Acrobike's Acrobike.
Or you end up getting the exact same card twice, 2 Welders, and you're like, oh, well, okay, this has happened.
Whoops.
On to some smaller counts, I suppose. So 2 Switch, 2 Reset Stamp. Switch maybe could get bumped to 3 in the future. Depends on how potent Pikarom continues to be. Because obviously Raichu paralyzing you is a bit of a bummer. But yeah, you also could potentially bring in Mallow and Lana again, I suppose. I don't really think it's a good card to run in this deck, but the Switch is fine. Double Reset Stamp is really good. in this format, because you're running the Mewtwo and then the Dedenne in a high count. You can kind of warp your prize trades in a way where you can stamp them down to 1, and it's pretty strong in the current meta.
Nothing more to add. Good cards. I agree with the Switch, though. I agree with the Switch. You need to make sure that you don't get annoyed by that Raichu.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a bit of a problem potentially in future. Then we also have a 1 of Great Catcher, 1 of Energy Recycle System, and a 1 of Stealthy Hood. The Hood is just in here because I want to see if Mimikyu is really going to be used at all. I think there's some decks that are considering running it because shutting down abilities they think is good. I'm not really too sure myself. I was never even that big of a fan of Stealthy Hood when people were using it in the Cosmic Eclipse era. Frankly, it's just because Mewtwo doesn't always need to be the attacker of choice in some matchups. Like against Malamar, you can basically beat an entire Malamar team with just an Espeon Deoxys. I did it in a League Cup. I beat a Malamar player with literally just SBDO. It can be done. So Hood for me is a bit of an iffy one. It just depends on if Mimikyu actually is going to be a problem. I doubt it. Recycle System's really good because we're running basic energy, so you can either add back that 1 energy you need to hand to attach for turn, or you can add back 3 and then just fish 2 of them out with Giant Hearth. So very strong. The 1 Great Catcher just as that extra form of Gust, I think is really solid for the deck.
Yeah, for sure. All good cards. Stealthy Hood probably a little bit meta dependent. Make sure you know what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. I don't honestly see myself in the future running Stealthy Hood. I personally think that the deck, with the fact that you have Reshizard, Lopuff, Victini, Latios, all these other attackers at your disposal, you shouldn't be too worried about a lot of matchups that run the Mimikyu. Like if Pikarom runs it, who cares? You have Lopuff that can just smash through Pikarom. If Mewtwo Mally runs it, who cares? You can just use Lopuff again, or even Latios GX becomes an incredibly strong card in that matchup with a Tag Purge. So I wouldn't be too worried if I was a Mewtwo player. Anyway, onto the stadiums. We've got 3 Giant Hearth, and I'm testing 1 Lysander Lab. So this is why I like the Victini in the deck. What Labs does is, say you're playing against Lucario Melmetal Zacian, which is normally a pretty bad matchup for Mewtwo. But with the Labs, you shut off the weakness, and I think you also shut off the extra taking 30 less from damage. So the Zacian can basically just get Zacian or Luca Metal, if they have 3 energies attached to them, and Victini just has 2, will get knocked out by Energy Burst, because that does 150, obviously doubled because of weakness. So it also means that a Victini V can knock out a Zacian if the Zacian only has 2 energy and the Victini has 2. So that's pretty crazy. Being able to shut that down and hit for weakness, get those really clean knockouts is super nice. It's also why the Reshizard is just so strong then going in as well. Labs can also be really handy to shut down things like the Big Charm, which some Pikarom decks are considering. Obviously, Lopuff then becomes being able to punch through that. I'm probably missing some text. Maybe if they run it in ADP, you can also defend Charizard GX and knock them out. But yeah, I found the 1 Lab's good. You could easily run a Forest over it because you're running basic energy. But I don't know. I think the Labs is cool.
I like Labs. I think Labs is going to be good. I'm a big fan of it. I like the fact that you can get rid of those Pikaroms that are like, oh, I've got 270 HP. You're like, yeah, but no, you don't. 240, I'll just knock you out. Thanks, see you later.
I guess the big plus of this card too is that a lot of decks that really rely on Jirachi Celebish, like you can go Labs into Reset Stamp into a knockout, and they can't just simply bring up the Jirachi and Celebish and hope to get out of it, because they then need to have a switch in order to get out of that situation, or a Stadium Bump. So it can be a really clutch card, especially in the late game. Similar to how a lot of the green decks used to go Power Plant into Reset Stamp, Mewtwo going Lysander Labs into Reset Stamp is actually incredibly strong against a lot of control decks.
Certainly is.
Onto the energy, we are running the 3 Psychic, and then we have a nice fat 12, 8 5. Don't know why I thought 12.
70 cards, Sam. Jeez.
We have 8 fire energies here. So the standard energy count, I would say, for Mewtwo, 8 and 3. I don't think you need any more or any less.
You wouldn't go with 12 fire?
I don't know about that one.
We'll
that's a hell of a... Maybe if I'm running that Blacephalon from Unify Unbroken Bonds, maybe. No. This counts fine. Honestly, you can probably drop one of the Psychic Energies. It only comes in useful if you want to use Mewtwo's GX attack, or if you want to obviously be doing Tag Purge and Venom Shot. But I think the 3 is fine. It covers if one of them is prize. You want to be able to maybe attach 1 to each of your Mewtwo so they can use some really important attacks. but the extra basics means that Makago can just pump out really easy damage over time. And yeah, I mean, I think for a long time that was the stock standard, was the 8 fire and 3 psychic. So no reason to change it. No need for Greninja as well in this next format. It could be good for Obstagoon, but I think if you're running the custom catchers as well as the great catcher, you should not be struggling too much with the Obstagoon matchup, in my eyes.
Yeah. You should probably be okay. Obviously, there are going to be opportunities for Obstagoon to just come through and win, but there are ways to get around it. You can deal with it. It's not the biggest problem in the world.
Yeah.
But hey, it's the same as anything. Like, if they set up one Obstagoon and you can't deal with it, you can't deal with it. So,
well, the way I see it is, like, you can capture up 2 Obstagoons and knock them out from the bench, and the last one you can just double blaze. So
yeah, exactly. Double blaze is
and then they have no
acceptable.
left.
It's a perfectly acceptable attack to use. So. Yeah, it's really cool, Sam. Like to be able to see the Mewtwo list going back to its roots, because this is very similar to the type of list that was around during World Championships last year. Except now we have the benefit of hindsight as well as Charizard GX and the new Victini V. I'm really excited to see it in action.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't know how well this list is going to go. I know that it is still very fast in the current metagame, but one thing maybe that I may look into changing in the future is adding in some Pokegears. Just the deck is so reliant on hitting Welder every turn that you need to maximize your chance of doing this. So the Mewtwo is a good start. Some people recommend running Power Pad. I still think Mewtwo is better than Power Pad in that situation, but maybe finding room for Pokegears could be really good. Just to, I mean, like, the thing is that there's just so many ways to hit it. Like, look at this whole column.
Yeah.
Look at all the ways that you could just thin into the Dedenes to find your Welders. Like, it theoretically shouldn't be that hard, but being a Welder deck, it always inevitably becomes insanely
difficult. You're gonna miss it every now and then. But hey, thanks, Sam, for sharing the list with us. Hopefully we can see it in action and get some glory for it over the next few days.
Mate, I'm excited. I'm keen to. I'm probably honestly going to use this at the winner box, so I'm pretty excited to see if Mewtwo can still hang with the big boys.
So there it is, the classic Mew Welder, reinvigorated and ready for Sword and Shield. Again, if you like this style of deck, then feel free to change it up. These lists aren't set in stone. You can do whatever you want. It's your life. Live it, you know. Anyway, if you like the content, consider subscribing. There's a button that's just here that you can click. You can follow all of our content from there. If you want to see a couple of videos that YouTube recommends, they're just here, as well as a playlist of Sword and Shield content. Above us is our Facebook and Twitter handle at @theSableEyes_YT. And apart from that, we'll see you all next time for more from the Sable Eyes. Bye.